Hello everyone, this is the Fifth Epical Revelation Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study of paper 45. We're on section 6, the Adamic Training of Ascenders, and that starts on page 515. Hi Millie. Millie?
It says, time to get a new Skype app. We replaced it, that will support a new Skype.
Yeah, just hit update, and it should update and then come back in. And as soon as I see you back online, I'll add you back in again.
Okay, so download now.
Download now, yeah.
Okay.
Just let it update. Okay, and then when you go back in, everything will be the same, and then it works the same way. Okay? All right. See you in a minute, then.
Thank you.
All right,
bye.
Yeah, let's hope it only takes a minute. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, Tim is back online. We're having a little technical difficulties, folks, getting started here tonight. We're going to try this again here with Tim.
Oh, hey, Diana.
Hey, how you doing, Tim?
Hey,
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
It's an interesting day. Oh, life is full.
Millie's going
How you doing, Roger?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
I'm running about 7 minutes behind.
That's all right. We're just fixing to get started. Millie's going to join us just a few minutes late today. When she started her Skype, it did a renew update thing on her, so she should be calling in just a minute, I think. And as she comes back on, we'll re-add her.
How you doing, Rodney?
I'm all right, Tim.
Great.
All right, let's get started. We're on section 6. That's 45.6.1, Adamic Training of Ascenders. And we're on the very first paragraph. And Tim, are you ready to start? Why don't you
Yes, I am.
start reading tonight?
The material sons and daughters, together with their children, present an engaging spectacle which never fails to arouse the curious and intrigue the attention of all ascending mortals. They are so similar to your own material sex races that you both find much of common interest to engage your thoughts and occupy your seasons of fraternal contact.
Okay, so this is the material sons and daughters. These are the beings that become the Adams and Eves on all the planets. You know, they train in different vocations while they're awaiting to be chosen to become Adam and Eves, and not all of them become Adam and Eves, do they? So the ones that are chosen to be Adams and Eves are fortunate that they get to have this experience. The other thing I want to mention here is, since they are material type beings, they're a lot like we are, right? So when they get ready to leave Jerusalem, they have to be dematerialized and transported in transport seraphim. So when they get to the planet, they have to be rematerialized, and part of their DNA is added to the local, our local DNA. In other words, they have volunteers that volunteer the DNA so that when Adam and Eve are rematerialized, when they get to this planet, they have both their original DNA and the DNA of this planet. So, so as long as they keep eating the fruit of life, they will continue living, and their body will repair itself for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and that's what the plant brought from Adentia was for. Okay, and that was transported here too. All right, so I always find that pretty interesting that they do that.
So they're, again, Adam and Eve are on Jerusalem?
They're on Jerusalem, that's right. But the tree of life
But yet the plant comes from Adentia.
comes from Adentia, that's right, the constellation headquarters, right?
Well, it must be transported from Adentia to Jerusalem as well.
It probably goes straight from the constellation headquarters to the planets, Rodney, because it's transported separately from Adam and Eve. In other words, it gets here long before Adam and Eve normally show up.
No, I mean, do they need that plant while they're on Jerusalem?
While they're on Jerusalem, they probably have access to the same sorts of plant materials, because on Jerusalem, they're just like they are on this planet. They live indefinitely, okay? So they don't die. And that's because they're encircuited. They're part of the circuit of the local universe. So the plant life they eat there turns into the same sort of energy that the tree of life fruit produces. And it's just not the fruit. They can eat the leaves off of the tree and it will give them the same benefit, this ongoing continuous life. And what it does is it replenishes their cells so that they don't grow old, which is kind of interesting.
Dang, I wish we had that here.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like the fountain of youth, you might say, right? But the interesting thing is this. Sure, this shows Millie is out there. The interesting thing is this. The tree of life has no benefit to the humans on this planet. Now, why would that be? It's because we are not encircuited like Adam and Eve are, right? So we can eat the tree or the fruit off the tree or the leaves, and it would give us no benefit of ongoing life like it did Adam and Eve.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah.
Do the material sons and daughters have thought adjusters?
No. They are given thought adjusters when they come to the planet, and they start on the ascension plan. Yeah.
And do they say anything else about their children? Do they have any special attributes?
They don't say anything about special attributes, but their children grow up to be eligible to become Adam and Eve's too. So, and it doesn't really tell us what other vocations that they can take up besides becoming Adam and, in line for being an Adam and Eve. So, I'm sure there's other things in the universe that they serve and function as that we don't have any concept of, or they just do not tell us about, right?
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay. Let's keep going. Let me see if I can get this working. Yes. All right. Millie's not out there yet. Rodney, would you like to take the next one?
Sure, Roger. Mortal survivors and much their leisure on the system capital, observing and studying the life habits and conduct of these superior semi-physical sex creatures. For these citizens of Jerusalem are the immediate sponsors and mentors of mortal survivors from the time they attain citizenship on the headquarters world until they take leave for adventure.
Okay, so that was Millie falling off again. We'll redial her. Eventually, they'll show she comes back on. Okay. So what we do is when we get there, when we get to Jerusalem, we observe the Adams and Eves, okay, and notice here it says they are superior semi-physical sex creatures. In other words, their bodies and their makeup is superior to just a normal human, right? And they become our mentors as we're on Jerusalem to try to help us attain wisdom and information and things that we don't get on this planet. Now, on our planet especially, because we don't have a physical Adam and Eve on this planet anymore, so we didn't get the benefit of their training down through the ages. So us not having that benefit will definitely benefit from associating with these when we get to Jerusalem, for sure. All right, Diane, would you take the next one?
Okay. On the second mansion worlds, ascending mortals are afforded ample opportunities for compensating any and all experiential deprivations suffered on their worlds of origin. whether due to inheritance, environment, or unfortunate premature termination of the career in the flesh. This is in every sense true except in the mortal sex life and its attendant adjustments. Thousands of mortals reach the mansion worlds without having benefited particularly from the disciplines derived from fairly average sex relations on their native spheres. The mansion world experience can provide little opportunity for compensating these very personal deprivations. Sex experience in a physical sense is past for these ascenders, but in close association with with material sons and daughters, both individually and as members of their families, these sex-deficient mortals are enabled to compensate the social, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual aspects of their deficiency. Thus are all those humans whom circumstances or bad judgment deprived of the benefits of advantageous sex association on the evolutionary world. Here on the system capitals afforded full opportunity to acquire these essential mortal experiences in close and loving association with supernal Adamic sex creatures of permanent residence on the system capitals.
Okay, so...
Pure work ethic kept it from happening.
What was that, Diane?
I said the Puritan work ethic kept it from happening.
That's right, the Puritan work ethic kept it
from happening. It's a Baptist.
That's right, that happens to many people, doesn't it? Okay, so, newsflash, when you get to the mansion worlds, there is no physical sex anymore. Okay? So, if you did not get that experience while on this planet, and they're talking about all the things that go along with that. And what do they mention here? They mention deprivation suffered on the world of origin, whether due from inheritance, environment, or unfortunate premature termination. So if you die before you have the opportunity to do that. And then they go on to say, later on in this paragraph, those humans whose circumstances are bad judgment deprive them of the benefits of advantageous sex association on the evolutionary planets, or the evolutionary worlds. Here on the system capital for full opportunity to acquire these essential mortal experiences. Okay, and how do you do that? You do that by observing the material sons and daughters. Okay, and they're not just talking about the physical aspect, they're talking about the social aspect of it, the intellectual aspect of it, the emotional, and the spiritual aspects of having sex. Okay, so all of those things are involved in the sex experience itself rather than just the lust that we know on this planet, right? So, what they do is they try to allow us to compensate for these deprivations on this planet when we get to Jerusalem. Now, this is not on the mansion worlds, this is on Jerusalem. So it's after the mansion world. So even your experience through the mansion world, you do not make up for lack of experience in this area. You have to wait till you get to Jerusalem and get it through observation of the material sons and daughters.
So do we want to have sex?
Huh?
Do we want to have sex or something, or?
Apparently so. You know.
But we can have a lot of it, correct?
Yeah, they probably have a lot of it. They're physical beings, just like we were. You know.
You know, I heard one pastor say, "Sex is God's ideal, and you're here because of it."
Well, in essence, it really is. If you think about it, without procreation, you know, the world would cease to exist. There wouldn't be anybody here sooner or later. You know.
That's correct.
And so, you know, it's a necessity for you know, reproducing the race, you know, and humankind over time. So it's a necessity. I do not like it. People call it a necessary evil. I disagree. I don't think there's anything evil about it at all. It's misuse of sex that makes things evil. Okay.
And that's going to happen on Jerusalem, correct, Roger?
And what, the misuse? No. Yeah, but our observation of this normal sexual life will be on Jerusalem. Definitely.
I wonder how long it'd take me to get to Jerusalem.
I don't know, it might take you 1,000,000 years. It may take you 1,000,000 years per mansion world if you're not fast enough, if you're not quick enough.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
And you may buzz right through them too, Tim. You know?
Roger, I thought once we were on the first mansion world, we were able to visit Jerusalem.
No, on the first mansion world, we were able to visit the Father's world, the world of the Penalators. That's the first one on the first mansion world. Now remember, y'all, when you get to the first mansion world, every 10 days, in other words, when you get to the mansion world, you're evaluated where you are spiritually. And every 10 days, which would be about 30 days in mansion world time, every 10 days, you're kicked up to the next world until you end up on the world you should be on. So if you're higher spiritual being, you may start out on the first mansion world. 10 days later, you get kicked up to the second mansion world. If you're above the second mansion world, 10 days later, you'll be kicked up to the third mansion world, and so on until the seventh. So you will stop on the mansion world where you need to make up some aspect of your personality that is deficient. Okay? So you may go through all 7 of the mansion worlds really quickly, or you may go through all 7 of the mansion worlds 1,000,000 years at a time. It really depends on your own spiritual awakening and how you progress. You know, how you progress spiritually. Okay? So, keep in mind, if you get to Jerusalem to observe the material sons and daughters, it may be what? 7,000,000 years. You know? We just do not know. Alright? That's the way it works. Unfortunately, let me try to redial Millie and see if she's out there yet. Alright? I guess I'm out up next, right? No surviving mortal or midware or seraphim may ascend to paradise, attain the Father, and be mustered into the core of finality without having passed through the sublime experience of achieving parental relationship to an evolving child of the world or some other experience analogous and equivalent thereto. The relationship of child and parent is fundamental to the essential concept of the universal Father and His universe children. Therefore does such an experience become indispensable to the experiential training of all ascenders. So, if we do not have children, we have to gain that experience either in the nursery worlds or by observing the material sons and daughters. Okay? That's the way it works.
Hey Roger, did they say how long we have to rear those children for? I can't remember.
Yes, it's age of decision, usually around age of 16 to 17. That's what they say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Tim, would you take up the next one, please?
The ascending midway creatures and the evolutionary seraphim must pass through this parenthood experience in association with the material sons and daughters of the system headquarters. Thus do such non-reproducing ascenders obtain the experience of parenthood by assisting the Jerusalem Adams and Eves in rearing and training their progeny.
So that's how we get the experience, right? By observing. Millie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great.
Millie? It was a trip.
Okay. We're on 6.6.
No, I found you.
You found me? Okay. Would you take the next paragraph, dear?
All mortal survivors who have not experienced parenthood on the evolutionary worlds must also obtain this necessary training while sojourning in the homes of the Jerusalem material sons and as parental associates of those super fathers and mothers. This is true except insofar as such mortals have been able to compensate their deficiencies on the system nursery located on the first transitional culture world of Jerusalem.
Okay, an interesting point about this too is you are evaluated while raising a child on these nursery worlds, and normally it's a Adam and Eve that makes that decision whether you're qualified to go on and you've met your qualification.
If you've already raised children, do you have to go through this?
You still have to qualify, Millie, because many people raise or start to raise children, and for one reason or another, I'm sure divorce, death of a child, things like that, don't finish their parental qualifications. So many people, even though they have had children, still have to go through this. And I believe it states in the book somewhere they normally like people to have raised 2 to 3 children, get the experience from 2 to 3 children, because it's difficult to get all the variation of parental experience with just one child. Because when you're dealing with just one child, then you're dealing with the personality of one type of being, where if you have different children, each child is totally different. You know, people say, oh, my children are the same. Well, they all have their own personalities, and dealing with each child is a little bit different. So,
yes.
So that's why they like you to have experience with more than one. Right?
I raised 2.
Well, that will probably qualify you, Billy.
1 for each hand.
1 for each hand.
That's what I could take care of.
All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay, sure, Roger. This probation nursery of Stania is maintained by certain Moranch personalities on the Finalder's world, 1/2 of the planet being devoted to this work of child rearing. Speaking of which, my swallow just showed up. They have received and reassembled certain children of surviving mortals, such as those offspring who perished on the evolutionary worlds before acquiring spiritual status as individuals. The ascension of either of these natural parents ensures that such a mortal child of the realm will be accorded repersonalization on the system Finalder planet, and there be permitted to demonstrate by subsequent free will choice whether or not it elects to follow the parental path of mortal ascension. Children here appear as on the nativity world, except for the absence of sex differentiation. There is no reproduction of mortal kind after the life experience on the inhabited worlds.
So they don't have, they're not able to have sex once they get to this planet. They're reborn on this world, and they're allowed to go ahead and through the rest of their life till they make the moral decision, right? Now, an interesting part about this is, it says, there be permitted to demonstrate by subsequent free will choice whether or not it elects to follow the parental path of mortal ascension. What does that mean, y'all? That means they can choose not to survive. Do you see that? It's a free will choice to survive, just like it is on this planet. In other words, you have a choice in this life to go on past this life or end your life completely. Does that make sense? You see that? Anybody got questions about that?
So it's pretty much kind of like we are, the Ascension Plan.
It's exactly like we are, Tim. We all have a choice to make on this planet throughout our life to wake up on the mansion worlds or end our lives, basically.
You know what I don't understand, Roger, is why people would choose not to survive.
I don't understand it either, Tim, and I've tried to figure it out over the years, for years and years and years, and it makes no sense to me why someone would want to end and stop their life. It really doesn't. Because this life, is just, like we said many times, is just the vestibule to our real life. The beauties and the wonderful things of the mansion worlds is yet to come. So, you know, to not survive makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I mean, hey Roger, if you told me that the Ascension career was going to be kind of like Earth, where it's so slow and you have no memory,
Yeah.
and you're just at a start and a standstill, you know, it would be depressing, but you have
Yeah.
full memory of who you are, what's going on, and it's just sad that, you know, they don't choose to survive. It's their choice.
Yeah, it really is. It's I will, like I said, I will never comprehend, never understand it, because the beauty of life starts upon death, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I first read that, or beginning to read, I thought, is it going to be like Earth? Is it going to be really slow? I mean, let's say, you know, you're born on another planet, and you don't know who you are, what's going on. You got to start all over again and start the searching again and trying to find God. But it's not going to be like that.
No, not at all. We'll have a pathway to follow from the time we wake up till the time we hit paradise.
So we're completely conscious, correct?
We're completely conscious. We remember everything, and there's always beings there to help us along and show us the pathway to get there. You know, that's the amazing thing. These beings that help us now that we can't see or hear or understand, we'll be able to see and hear and understand when we get to the mansion worlds.
You know, I had a question for you, Roger. It makes me wonder, for instance, if we become assigned to a planet and for some odd reason they kill us, what would happen?
We would be remanufactured, literally, Tim, given another Morontia body and brought back up to speed exactly where we were. So, you know, you cannot, once you leave this planet and get your Morontia body, regardless of what happens, you will never die. That's the thing. That's why they call it eternal life. So if they sent you on an assignment well, we don't get assignments like Adam and Eve, but that's the only thing I can think of right off the top of my head. If they give you an assignment to another planet and something terrible happens and someone destroyed your body, they would just reawaken you in a new body again. You know.
Okay, thank you, Roger. That answers my question.
All right.
I have some questions, though.
Go right ahead, Rodney.
Here are received and reassembled certain children of surviving mortals,
Right.
such as those offspring who perish in the evolutionary worlds before acquiring spiritual status as individuals. The ascension of either of its natural parents ensures, anyway, what I'm getting at is, number one, the certain children of surviving mortals.
Yeah, well, that's the ones that get killed or die prematurely, Rodney, is what they're talking about. That's what the certain children are.
What about if neither parent survives?
That's the children that people like me and you are allowed to choose to raise, Rodney. If neither parent chooses to raise the child that's revived.
Survives. What I mean is, I think it's saying if they don't make it to the Morontia world.
Right. If the either parent doesn't make it to the mansion world, those children still go anyway.
Okay. Now it says before they acquire spiritual status.
Right.
What does that mean?
That means they made a decision to follow the ascension plan, or made the decision to survive, Rodney. Soon as a child gets old enough, when they get a thought adjuster, soon as they get old enough to say, yes, I want to go to heaven, or yes, I believe in God the Father, okay, then automatically they are registered as a future citizen of the cosmos, okay? So they automatically go on to the mansion worlds.
Now, what about children that do not receive a thought adjuster? They were too young.
Then those are the ones that are going to the nursery that will start from scratch, and those are the ones that we will be allowed to raise.
What about children like Cadence that can't make a moral choice.
The same thing. Rodney, when Cadence dies, she will automatically go to the mansion worlds, okay? And she will awaken when she awakens on the mansion world, well, on the nursery world, basically. She will be like a brand new being, just starting out from scratch. The difference is she won't have sex differentiation, so she won't be able to have children, but she will start from square one and experience life just like we do on this planet, with the exception of getting married and having sex and having children. That's the only exception to her life. But she'll
What about,
start from scratch.
what about a fetus that was 3 months old,
Same thing.
supported naturally or artificially?
Well, there's a lot of discussion in the Urantia Brotherhood about when life begins. Does it begin at conception or begin at birth? According to the Urantia book, it has one reference that says life begins at birth. Okay? So, if you take it literally, that could mean that a fetus is not considered a sanctioned being yet. It's not considered a sanctioned being until it actually is born. And I don't care if it just takes one breath, it's still a sanctioned being at that point because it was
Up
born.
until the one breath, it's a parasite.
Up to the one breath, they consider it a parasite on the mother. Right.
Till it's living independent.
So it's till it's living independent. As soon as it takes its first breath, that it's living independent is considered a sanctioned being, and it will wake up on the nursery world if it dies. Okay? And
Hey, Roger.
either parents will be able to raise it or another being can raise it. Yeah, Tim?
I just had a question. Do angels have thought adjusters?
No.
They don't?
No.
Because in the papers, I had a question. You had mentioned the word translate, meaning that it's a fusion with your thought adjuster. And
Right.
it mentions in the papers, I can't remember what type of angel, but it does say that the angels do translate. And I'm wondering how the revelatories use that word if they don't have adjusters.
That I'd have to see the reference to, Tim. If you send it to me, I'll take a look at it and I'll give you an answer on that, because only humans translate in the sense of fusing with their thought adjuster, right? And you only do that while you're on this planet. When you get to the mansion world, you fuse with your thought adjuster, but it's not a translation then. You just fuse with your adjuster. You become a full-blown cosmic citizen when you fuse with your adjuster. And they give you a new name. When you fuse with your adjuster, you're given a new name because you're a new creature of the universe. You're part God and part human. So,
Okay, thank you.
you become a real son of God. But till then, you're a faith son of God, right? Okay. Okay, let's move on. Millie, would you take the next one, please? I didn't even lose my place.
Mansion World students who have, excuse me, Mansion World students who have one or more children in the probationary nursery on the finalitas world and who are deficient in essential parental experience may apply for a Melchizedek permit, which will effect their temporary transfer from ascension duties on the mansion worlds to the finalita world, where they are granted opportunity to function as associate parents to their own and other children. This service of parental ministry may be later accredited on Jerusalem as the fulfillment of 1/2 of the training which such ascenders are required to undergo in the families of the material sons and daughters.
You notice it's only 1/2 of your training to raise a child on the probationary world. You see that? Even if it's more than one child. So you still have to observe the material sons and daughters to get the other half. That makes sense. The other thing interesting about this paragraph is this. You have to get a permit from the Melchizedek teachers to relieve you to, what does it say there? Ascension duties on the mansion world. So while you're raising these children, this 16 years, you're relieved from your ascension duties to focus on doing nothing but raising these children. That makes sense? So you get basically a vacation from your ascension plan to take care of this requirement to raise children. That's how important it is.
How long does it take to raise a child in the nursery?
Well, it's 16 years. The 16 to 17 years, they said, is the normal period of time for a child to make the decision for survival. They can do it a little earlier, Millie. So that is Mansion World time. So it would be about 18 days per day of our time. So if you figure that out, it would probably be about 50 to 60 years, something like that. Okay?
So the growth rate, Roger, would be kind of like Urantia, the same process, the same amount of time?
Same process, same amount of time, but it's longer because the Mansion World time system is different from ours. It would be longer, okay? But they would be considered 16 years of age because that was the year in the Mansion World time, right? And we know it's about 18 days per day for human time. So it'd probably be around somewhere between 50 and 60 years, I would think.
And at that time, does the new 16-year-old get a thought adjuster and start on the ascension plan?
They get a thought adjuster at age 5.5, just like we do on this planet, Millie. Just like we do here.
Oh, hey, Roger.
Yeah.
Do handicapped children have thought adjusters?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All children have thought adjusters. Whenever a child makes that first moral decision, a non-selfish decision to think of someone else other than themselves, that is usually considered their first moral decision. And when they make that first moral decision, some children may make it at 4, some at 6, some at 5, but when they make that decision, the thought adjuster comes and dwells in them. Now, if they're mentally deficient or retarded where they cannot make that moral decision, they automatically, when they die, they get kicked up to the nursery world automatically. Nothing is lost in this life, right?
Because the papers say of normal-minded, and I just wanted an example of what normal-minded would be.
Yeah.
People with disabilities or maybe mental disabilities. Do you think, I don't know if they have adjusters or not. What's your comment on that?
Well, if they have mental disabilities or a lack of mental faculty,
schizophrenia or?
Yeah, they would be kicked onto the Mansion Worlds anyway because they don't have a normal functioning mind. There is nothing in this life that will keep you out of the opportunity to survive.
Well said.
You know, that's the thing. So when you see mentally handicapped or mentally retarded individuals, they probably already have a pass to go on to the Mansion World in this life, you know. So, but when they get there, they'll have a fully functioning normal mind, right? All right. So, I think we took care of that paragraph. Let's keep going. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay. The probation nursery itself is supervised by 1,000 couples of material sons and daughters, volunteers from the Jerusalem colony of their order. They are immediately assisted by about an equal number of volunteer Mitzvahite parental groups who stop off here to render this service on their way from the Mansionite world of Satania to the unrevealed destiny on their special worlds of reservation among the finaliter spheres of Selvington.
So there it is, material sons and daughters. Those are the ones that will decide whether you've done what you're supposed to get your check in the box that you've been a parent. Okay, and also they have the volunteer to the Mitzvahite parental groups, which they don't tell us a whole lot about. So you can speculate about all that.
I was just about to ask you that, the Mitzvahite. It sounds like the Midwayers, like midway between, but it's the word of Satania, it's somewhere in Satania?
Yeah, they're actually a different order of being completely than human. Okay, so I can't tell you a whole lot about them other than the fact they're not like us.
It's not a world. It's something like us but different. Okay.
Totally different. Yeah, it's a different type of being than us.
I was thinking it was a world.
No. Now there's many Mid-Sinite worlds, but the Mid-Sinite beings are a different order of beings. So, and they tell us a little bit, but not enough to get a very good idea of it. Okay. Diane, I think you're next.
Okay. The Melchizedek schools. The Melchizedeks are the directors of that large corps of instructors, partially spiritualized will creatures and others who function so acceptably on Jerusalem and its associated worlds, but especially in the seven mansion worlds. These are the detention planets where those mortals who fail to achieve fusion with their indwelling adjusters during the life in the flesh are rehabilitated in transient form to receive further help and to enjoy extended opportunity for continuing their strivings for spiritual attainment, those very efforts which were prematurely interrupted by death, or if for any other reason of hereditary handicap, unfavorable environment, or conspiracy of circumstances, this soul attainment was not completed, no matter what the reason. All who are true of purpose and worthy in spirit find themselves as themselves present on the continuing planets, where they must learn to master the essentials of the eternal career, to possess themselves of traits which they could not or did not acquire during a lifetime in the flesh.
Now this is interesting because they treat this paragraph like we're on detention planets. Did y'all catch this?
Yeah.
Because we didn't fuse in this lifetime. So basically, this is like the mansion worlds are the remedial planets for us to learn how to fuse with our adjusters. That's what it boils down to, right? Okay, so all the things we didn't learn spiritually in our lifetime is what the mansion worlds are all about. Is to teach us how to cope with one another, how to accept one another, how to be more spiritual, the whole 9 yards till we get to the point where we can fuse with that adjuster. That's what the mansion worlds are for, right? They're not the concept of heaven where we sit around and play a harp all day. That's what the point I want to make. Right?
I just had a question, Roger, that takes place on paper 40, section 4,
yeah.
And it just says the planetary mortals. That's referring to us, correct?
Right.
Or is it referring to other mortals from other planets? Also.
Well, it depends on the paragraph, Tim. I'd have to see the whole paragraph. But normally when they say planetary mortals, they're talking about us.
Can I just read you something, if that's okay?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
Because it says 1, planetary mortals. It says mortals are all animal origin evolutionary beings of ascended potential in origin, nature, and destiny. These various groups and types of human beings are not wholly unlike the Urantia peoples. When they say various groups and races, that's the confusion I have.
Well, that's because they're talking about all the mortals of every type on every type of planet. Okay? So, and they're much like we are. In other words, we're part of that large group. The mortals, the human being, the human race, basically. And there's a lot of variations of that, Tim. Well, it might be tall people, short people, fat people, people that look more round than they are tall, all sorts of humans on different planets, but they're still all considered in the mortal family, is what they're talking about there. Make sense?
Okay, thank you for taking the time to answer that.
Sure, no problem. Okay, let's go into the next one. The brilliant evening stars and their unnamed coordinates frequently serve as teachers in the various educational enterprises of the universe, including those sponsored by the Melchizedeks. Also do the Trinity teacher sons collaborate, and they impart the touches of paradise perfection to these progressive training schools. But all these activities are not exclusively devoted to the advancement of ascending mortals. Many are equally occupied with the progressive training of the native spirit personalities of Nebadon. You see that? The native spirit personalities of Nebadon. Remember last week we were talking about angels and things like that and what their ascension plan is. This is part of that. They are trained right along with us many times by the brilliant evening stars and the Trinity teacher sons along with the Melchizedeks, so that they advance as we advance, and they get smarter and more socialized as we get smarter and more socialized, right? Also, they're talking about the native spirit personalities of Nebadon. That probably also includes any permanent type of being also, right? So, all of these beings are there to help us along and help each other along. Okay, Tim, would you take the next one?
The Melchizedek sons conduct upward of 30 different educational centers on Jerusalem. These training schools begin with the College of Self-Evaluation and ends with the Schools of Jerusalem Citizenship, wherein the material sons and daughters join with the Melchizedeks and others in their supreme effort to qualify the mortal survivals for the assumption of the high responsibilities, representative government. The entire universe is organized and administered on the representative plan. Representative government is the divine ideal of self-government among non-perfect beings.
Okay, so we all get trained. Now, when we read the paper called, we've read it before, about 3 or 4 years ago, Government on a Neighboring Planet, this is what they're talking about, a representative government. We have something close to that on this planet, but not 100%. We try to think we have a representative government, but this is a more perfected representative government, and this is the ideal for the whole universe. They want to teach all types of beings how to be self-governing, so that they choose the representatives so that all beings are happy with what's going on and how they're represented in the universe. Okay? So we'll get to that government on the neighboring planet again, not too far in the future. Okay, Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. Every 100 years of universe time, each system selects its 10 representatives to sit in the constellation legislature. They are chosen by the Jerusalem Council of 1,000, an elective body charged with the duty of representing the system groups in all such delegated or appointed matters. All representatives or other delegates are selected by the Council of 1,000 electors, and they must be graduates of the highest school of the Melchizedek College of Administration, as also are all of those who constitute this group of 1,000 electors. This school is fostered by the Melchizedeks, latterly assisted by the Phenoliters.
Okay, so once again, they try to teach us how to be a representative government system, right? And we get to elect people to be our representation to the constellation legislature, right? Now, an interesting point here is also, when we went into rebellion, what did this do to us? It took us out of this representation, didn't it? Because while we were still in rebellion, we can't be representative of our local universe, can we? So right now we just have counselors there, basically, people who are representing us or listening type thing. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Sure. There are many elective bodies on Jerusalem, and they are voted into authority from time to time by 3 orders of citizenship: the material sons and daughters, the seraphim and their associates, including midway creatures, and the ascending mortals. To receive nomination for representative honor, a candidate must have gained requisite recognition from the Melchizedek schools of administration.
So the material sons and daughters, the seraphim, including the midwares, and the ascended mortals. That's the three types of beings that are represented there, right? But you have to have gained recognition in the school of administration. So you have to be trained how to be an administrator and how to be a representative before you even get nominated. You see that? That's what we need in our own government. We need to train people to be elected officials, to be elected leaders, right? And that, yeah, that would gain experience that way, and that would make our leaders much more responsive to its citizens, right? All right. Diane, would you take the next one?
Suffrage is universal on Jerusalem among these three groups of citizenship, but the vote is differentially cast in accordance with the recognized and duty-registered personal possession of moda morantia wisdom. The vote cast at a Jerusalem election by any one personality has a value ranging from 1 up to 1,000. Jerusalem citizens are thus classified in accordance with their moda achievement.
So the wiser you are, the more moda achievement you have, right? That moda is that wisdom we gain as we become morantia beings, right? Okay, and each one of these representatives have a different range on their vote. In other words, one of them might vote and their vote counts for 1, and the next one might vote and their counts for 1,000, right? Depending on how much morantia moda they have. So the votes that's cast is determined by the wisest beings possible. Does that make sense? It's a perfect system. Okay. I'm going to skip reading and let Tim take this one. Tim, would you take the next one?
Who? Me?
Tim.
From time to time, Jerusalem citizens present themselves to the Melchizedek examiners, who certify to their attainment of morantia wisdom. Then they go before the examining corps of the brilliant evening stars, or their designates, who ascertain the degree of spirit insight. Next, they appear in the presence of the 24 counselors and their associates, who pass upon their status of experiential attainment of socialization. These three factors are then carried to the citizenship registrars of representative government, who quickly compute the moda status and assign suffrage qualifications in accordance therewith.
So it's a very specific system they use, isn't it, to determine how much moda you have, how much socialization you've learned in the mansion worlds, and then you're given a moda status from that. Isn't that interesting? All right. Tim, would you take the next one, please?
Under the supervision of the Melchizedeks, the ascending mortals, especially those who are tardy in their personality unification on the new morantia levels, are taken in hand by the material sons and are given intensive training designed to rectify such deficiencies. No ascending mortal leaves the system headquarters for the more extensive and varied socialization career of the constellation individuality, combining the completed mortal existence and experiential association with the budding morantia career, both being duly blended by the spiritual over-control of the thought adjuster, presented by Melchizedek of temporary assignment on Urantia.
Thank you. So,
we skipped a sentence.
yeah, we skipped a sentence.
Skipped a line.
Which one was it? The budding of morantia career.
No ascending mortal.
Read it where you missed it there, Rodney.
Yeah, no ascending mortal leaves the system headquarters for the more extensive and varied socialization career of the constellation until these material sons certify to the achievement of moda personality. And in individuality, combining the completed mortal existence and experiential association with a budding Maracha career, both being duly blended by the spiritual over-control of the thought adjuster.
Okay.
Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah, I don't remember. I got lost there myself, Tim, so I couldn't.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see it, guys. Yeah, no Cindy Mortal. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. So, before you can leave the mansion worlds, you have to be certified that you're ready to leave, right? Every single person is given this opportunity and is tested, in essence, before you go on to the constellation. They don't want you to leave unless you're ready to go, right? And that's the name of that Tim. And we made it to the end of that one. Next time we'll take the next one, which is the local system headquarters, paper 46. That was a good paper, wasn't it, y'all?
I had a great time with everybody here tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I did too. Tell you what, let's say a little prayer. Rodney, would you like to close us in prayer tonight?
Sure, Roger. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to meet once again in order to study this revelation. Heavenly Father, we pray that we may better understand these truths so that we can pass them on to other truth seekers. Father, we pray for our elected officials and judges that they make the right decision during these troubled times. And we especially pray for Rogers and Deborah in securing funds in order to keep this ministry going. In all things, your will be done. Heavenly Father, amen.
Amen. And thank you for joining us at home. Y'all don't go anywhere. I've got a couple things to tell you. Please come see us again.